Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the next episode of the Frisco Report. Mike, let's jump right into this. How is your week here coming up on Tuesday? How's everything going for you, bro?
Everything's going great, man. You know, we're getting closer and closer, and we're here and ready to kick this off for you guys. Let's do it.
It's nonstop coverage here from the Frisco Report, Mike. So, just when people think there aren't enough topics, there's always topics here to talk about for the Cowboys. And today, we got a couple that we're going to talk about. First, we're going to hit up the players that are under contract years. Who's in their final year of their contract? Who's going to try to earn a second contract with the Cowboys, or are they going to move on? We'll hit on that. And then we'll shift gears and talk about the offense. Is this offense going to shift away from the run-first mentality? The running game is the centerpiece of the offense, or is it going to move more towards, the passing game? So we'll talk about that and a few more things along the way. All right, Mike? So first thing we want to kick off, some of the news of the day. They're talking about, when is minicamp going to happen? Is it going to happen? So it doesn't look like it's going to happen. A lot of teams have already reconvened for the offseason, their offseason programs and that kind of thing. So, they did all the virtual, I guess you could say virtual camps. I guess they were virtual mini camps at this point, right? So, but they are talking about discussions between the NFL and NFLPA for the rookies and newly acquired free agents to come into the facilities, about a week or two early before the actual training camp kicks off in about mid-July. So what's your take on this, Mike? How do you feel about where the Cowboys are at in particular with everything being virtual thus far?
It's hard to say. I know Xavier Woods made a comment on his press conference that how they're doing it is that they put on film and then the defensive player calls out what they see. You can call out, what you see all day long, but you got to get hands-on. That's what the NFL is. It's a new defensive scheme. Everything's brand new. And yes, they're professionals. Yes, they're NFL players. But you got to get on the turf. You got to get on the gridiron. And you got to learn these things because things come at you a lot different in person than in virtual reality, right? So yeah. It's huge. And with the newly required free agents, and with this draft class and the undrafted free agents class that they signed, it's huge for them. They got to, figure out where the star is, how to get around the star, because a lot of these every single free agent hasn't even walked into the Frisco star, and you can get lost in there. So, a lot of these players, they just know people from a computer screen, and they got to get in there, and they got a lot to learn. And when training camp comes up, I don't know how they're going to fit all this information and get ready by week one.
Yeah, that's true. I guess the one thing that kind of helps out is that all 32 teams are going through this, so it's not really like anybody has a foot up on another team. There's not a team out there that's actually, meeting in person and that kind of thing. So that's one saving grace for this whole deal. But yeah, you make a good point about, it's different. Going over X's and O's instead of doing it in a person live action. So we'll see how everybody progresses. But I think it's good, that we're getting closer. We're getting closer to training camp, and like they've talked about, it's going to be there at the Frisco, at the Star. So whether or not they're going to allow fans or anything like that, I doubt that they will. Just because of the crowd control and the possibility of this COVID. Spreading through the air and this kind of thing, unless they do it outside. But, you still have some risk. They want to mitigate the risk as much as they can. I saw a video of the University of Texas college players getting tested, and then they're going through that diagnostic test where they stick that nasal Q-tip all deep up your nose, and these players looked miserable, man. I felt bad for them. So, I'm sure that the players are not looking forward to that, but I guess it's the world that we live in right now.
Yeah, it definitely is the world that we live in right now. One of my good buddies in North Texas got the test done. Still waiting on results, but his nose was bleeding. His eyes were all poofed up like he got stung by bees. And he was like, that was not a fun test. And, I've never had, they do the same kind of test with the influenza. But, doctors try to avoid that and say, yep, he's probably the flu. Take some Gatorade, Theraflu, go to bed. So, they try to avoid that test as much as possible. But, if you're going to have all these gatherings of 100 people, you can't avoid it.
Yeah. All right, Mike. So we're going to shift focus here now and looking at players that are in a contract year. So what that means is these players are either on one-year deals or they're coming to the end of their rookie contracts. You brought up Xavier Woods earlier. He's one of those guys. So, Mike, let's talk about which of these players do you feel are going to shine to earn a second contract possibly, or, do well enough where, they're going to just end up playing somewhere else, Mike. So we have a comprehensive list here that we're going to take a look at. Obviously, we won't look at really the bottom of the roster here because, you do have some of these guys here that aren't impact players at all and just street free agents. But we'll talk about the main ones here, obviously. Let's talk about this one here. And it's going to be a defensive end. We've had him here for a while. He got a big contract. A lot of fans have said that he hasn't lived up to the contract. Cowboys tried to get ahead of the defensive tackle market at the time. And we're talking about Tyron Crawford, Mike. What's your gut feeling here on Tyron Crawford and his contract year?
Yeah, he's 31 going into his probably his final contract with the Cowboys. I'm going to go ahead and say that. Mike McCarthy, Will McClay, these guys, they want to get bigger, stronger, and faster. And, you look at Crawford's health history, and it really hasn't been where it should be. And that could be part of the regime moving him, from inside back to outside, inside back to outside. It's been a circus with them. The talent was there, but the health really never got him there. And, he's making $9 million this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if he takes a pay cut later on down the line, maybe after what's that date, July 2nd or June 1st or whatever it is. Maybe something happens there, but I don't see him getting a third contract with the Cowboys, Joe.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't see it happening. And he's one of these players, like I said, the money and the production, the injuries, like you said, the biggest factor here. He's just too beat up. A player of this caliber with these types of injuries, you wouldn't even touch in free agency. If this guy was a player on somebody else's team and they became a free agent, no way in heck would you touch this player with a 10-foot pole. So for me, I'm not even sure that he makes the team, to be quite honest. They're trying to churn this roster. They got a lot of young players on here. Something's got to give, and I understand the captain designation and the locker room guy and that kind of thing, but new regime, new plan in place, and I just don't see a new contract out of this one. Mike, the next one here, the general, Sean Lee. Okay, he got a 1-year extension. He played his options. He discussed it with the family, with the Cowboys, what he wanted to do. Was it going to be coaching? Was it going to be moving on to another team? Ultimately, he committed to the Cowboys, and the Cowboys, rewarded him with a 1-year deal. They wanted him around here, and but he is up in age. He's obviously on the backside of his career, Mike. So, what do you see out of Sean Lee here in his final year, his final contract here?
I don't see much. A rotational guy, maybe a schematic guy. Especially if they go 3-4. You definitely want a guy like Sean Lee out there. Just the wisdom. You look at early in his career in a 3-4 on the Cowboys team. The guy was phenomenal, Joe. You have to have that type of wisdom out on your football field, especially if you're going to blitz Jalen Smith, Leighton Vander Esch. You want some kind of wisdom in the middle. So Xavier Woods, Clinton Dix, these guys don't get beat up. and have those flaws that we've been seeing from those guys. So, I don't see a future contract. I think they go linebacker early in the draft next year, take care of some defensive players there. But I don't see Sean Lee renewing a deal with the Cowboys.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. It just feels like it's the end of the career for the general. I think he's gonna ride off into the sunset. Hopefully, we can send him on his way with a ring, or some kind of playoff, taste in his mouth, because he's been here for a while. He's been producing for years and hasn't sniffed the NFC Conference Championship game yet, and that kind of thing. So this is a topic that we've always talked about. Cowboys wasting talent. Sean Lee, one of the best that's ever donned the star, and he's here, 35 years old. Nothing really to show for it. He's got an All-Pro and some Pro Bowls under his belt, but the championship ring has been so elusive for him. I hope we can get it, but yeah, probably his final year. Maybe he'll move into coaching or something like that, but I agree with you, man. Final year. Next one here, Mike. Clinton Dix. He's on a 1-year deal. 28 years old. He's, we're assuming he's going to be your free safety here for the Cowboys. What's your gut feeling here on what he's going to do for this 1-year deal?
I hope he does well. To be honest with you, I hope there's some real competition there at the strong safety position. You talk about Donovan Wilson, facing off against Clinton Dix. I think that's going to be one heck of some competition there. He's on a $3.7 million deal for 1 year. First year with the Cowboys. You've been with the Packers, been with the Redskins. Not very flashy to me. I'm going to be honest with you. I still don't think the free safety position is taken care of. If I was to go into the season right now, I would still be biting my fingernails at the free safety position, Joe. But, what he does this year, wearing a star on his helmet, he might have the best year of his career, especially under a former coach like Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel similarly about the player. We're talking about penciling in a player, whether you're using a pencil or you're using a permanent marker or a pin. For me, Clinton Dix, I think you're penciling him in, but there's always that opportunity that somebody might outshine him. So it's like we've been talking about, and a lot of fans talk about this. The safety position has just been one of those positions that has really been on Cowboys fans' minds. Going all the way back to Darren Woodson when he retired. It seems like we've been chasing that safety ever since. After he left, just a whole mishmash of players. Roy Williams kind of fell off the map there once Woodson left. That was a big loss in his career. And then you get Kim Hamlin here on a big deal. Didn't really produce after he got his extension. And then you get, just all sorts of safeties here. They never have gotten the guy there. It's been a rotation of players coming in and out of the swiveling doors there. So I'm with you. I really like Donovan Wilson on this team. I think he has a lot going for him. A lot of fans have really forgotten about him. I think he's very underrated, but he had an outstanding preseason last year. Strong camp, strong preseason. If it wasn't for the injury, we may not even be talking about this right now. I mean, that's the type of capability he has. Now his coach comes here from the Aggies too, so he knows how to coach him. He knows his strengths, his weaknesses, where he can improve him. So I like it. I like the competition. It's gonna be a good one. But ultimately, I think he's gonna be a 1-year kind of guy. I think he's more of a bridge player for me. I really don't see him as somebody the Cowboys would extend a long-term deal. Now, if he plays lights out, that kind of thing, he's obviously gonna want more money. Cowboys have shown that they're not really looking to pay, to pay big money to the secondary. So we'll see what happens there. But I think 1-year deal, and he might be adios. But we'll see. We'll see, Mike. The next player here, Mike, Andy Dalton, the backup quarterback for the Cowboys. I think we finally can agree that Cowboys have actually done good here with getting a competent backup quarterback here. It's been a while since we've had one, and now we have Andy Dalton. What's your gut feeling on Andy Dalton on the 1-year deal?
There's no way he stays with the Cowboys on a second-year deal. Even if he stays as the backup all year, he's going to go get – quarterbacks are going to turn next year, and he's going to be a high commodity just from sitting behind Dak Prescott and wearing a star in his helmet. This was a smart move for him and his family, and that's all this is. It's setting up the second half of his career, Joe, and he's going to get him I guess a third NFL contract, fourth NFL contract, however you want to look at it, next year with another team.
Yeah, for me, I feel that where he's at, he's 33 years old. I feel like, obviously the quarterbacks have been showing they've been able to play into the 40s. You look at Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers getting up there in age, Brady obviously, but these are the elite of the elite, right? Andy Dalton, for me, I think he's kind of more like a Steve Berline from back in the day, which is not a bad thing. I think you might be able to sway him to back up Dak here for a little bit longer if he wants to. Obviously every year there's quarterback churn, like you said. There's quarterbacks are the premium position, and if Ryan Fitzpatrick can make millions of dollars as a backup quarterback, jumping from team to team, I think that's where I totally agree with you on that. It's possible he could be in that type of that might be his career. He might be like Fitzpatrick, where you're just a free agent backup quarterback with the opportunity to play for injury. So, but for me, I feel like he's a homegrown type of player. He's a local player. He lives in the area, so maybe this is it for him. Maybe he does want to stay here. So we'll see. I think that's going to be an interesting one to watch. He's on a $3 million deal. He's got a couple of incentives and that kind of thing, but that one there, I think, is one that I would really consider, especially if you get Dak on a long-term contract, which we're all hoping he gets. Most of us are anyway. I know that there's that contingent that doesn't want Dak here, but for me, Andy Dalton would be a good little backup here, for at least another year or two. So we'll see what happens there, Mike. The next one here, newly acquired cornerback Darryl Worley, 26 years old. What's your gut take here on where Worley fits here? 1-year deal? Does it get extended? What's going to happen here with Worley, Mike?
It's going to be tough. I mean, he's going to have some competition there. The Cowboys have him listed as a cornerback, and they went to go draft 2 corners this year. So, and you already got Jordan Lewis, Chidobe. They extended Anthony Brown. So, I mean, this guy has to fight through, some competition. And, he has experience at free safety and obviously corner. So, it's gonna be hard, to kind of pinpoint where this guy's going to be. Even he could be inactive, if they carry 6 corners, he could be the one that's inactive. Now, he is a special teams player. Does that benefit him going forward, building this roster? Looking at competition, Joe, looking at where they signed him, $3 million deal, base salary. I really don't see anything but maybe a camp body here. I'm not trying to be hard on the guy, but that's all I see.
No, you're right on with it. I think a lot of the times you see, the Cowboys acquire players in free agency, former high pick, but ended up being a bust. Okay, I mean that's just what it is. He's bounced around here a little bit here recently. So, but you do get the fan that's out there like, yeah, man, this guy can be it. He might even compete for a start. He might even start over Trayvon and this and that. I'm just like, man, you're just you're overhyping it. They're overhyping it. So, for me, I do see him as a special teamer player. He's a good little player that can give you some depth. He does have some games under his belt, but I just don't see him being a starter. I'm with you on that. I do see him more as a special team player, which is something that we do need. So I think that might be the way that he gets onto the roster. I almost feel like that final cornerback position might come down between him and Kennedy. Both have pros and cons. One's injury prone, one is a bust. So we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. But Darryl Worley, yeah, it's an uphill battle. I think this was more of I feel like this was also strategic for the Cowboys when you want to have players in place just in case your plans don't go as they were in the draft, right? So I think the plan was we got to come out of this with a cornerback in either round 1 or 2, or otherwise we're going to have to lean on Worley and the other guys that we have here. That's not the case now. They got their guy. Worley, he's going to go into a different type of role now here after the draft. So we'll see how it shakes out, Mike. We'll see how it goes there. Cameron Erving, Mike, the newly acquired, I guess you could say, replacement for Cam Fleming. Basically, that's how I'm going to see this. But another bust, and this is something that Will McClay likes to do. He likes to swing for these bust players. Sometimes he'll get something out of them. Kind of like a Jonathan Cooper. Relatively, he was a bust, but the Cowboys got something out of him. He really did good here for the Cowboys. They even tried to bring him back to back up and be a swing guard, but he wasn't having it. But can Cameron Erving be that type of player, or is he another camp body? What do you think on Cam Erving, Mike?
Camp body all day. And if you're not familiar with Cam Erving, he's the one David Erving got into a fight with the Cleveland Browns a few years back. Look it up if you don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, camp body Joe. Really a late free agency signing. It just gives you some protection there for Andy Dalton. During preseason games, I don't know how much.
Yeah.
Because I don't even know how much this guy has left in the tank, being 29. But he has a lot of competition to go battle with, and I just don't see how he wins out.
Yeah, it's just a true thing, and like we're saying, guys, you don't really want to fall in love with where they got drafted, because it's like you hear, these coaches that say it's not where you get drafted, it's how you perform after you get drafted. And early pick, complete bust, complete bust. At least with Cam Fleming, he had some parts of his game obviously that weren't good, but I mean, you're trying to compare to Tyron Smith. That's it's hard. It's hard to live up and play to that level. But Cam Fleming, actually, he was a starting right tackle for the Patriots in the Super Bowl, so he could play. Cam Erving, on the other hand, a complete bust. He's not good. So we'll see. We'll see if Coach Philbin can get something out of him. Let's see if the reclamation project can turn this guy into something for us. But yeah, I feel like he's a one-year guy, camp body type of player, and I agree with you, Mike. I think that's what he is. Okay. The next one here, I think, is an interesting one, Mike. Joe Looney, the center, 31 years old. He signed a one-year extension. He was one of the first free agent signings that we actually made in the offseason. What's your take on Joe Looney this year and moving forward?
Yeah, Joe Looney. I mean, you want to talk about how Andy Dalton is great insurance for your quarterback position. That's what Joe Looney is to the offensive line. He stepped in a couple of years ago and played solid for a now retired Travis Frederick, and that's a guy like Cameron Erving is going to have to try to beat out. Because Looney can play guard, center. He's fast enough. I'm sure he could swing. So, that's the guy you want on your football team here. Yeah, he's had a lot of one-year deals past couple of years with the Dallas Cowboys, but he's just 31. I think you can get him for a couple more deals after this year. I really like Joe Looney.
Yeah, I think he's a good little piece there to just back up that center position, because if you get bad center play, it goes downhill. And the Cowboys had center issues until they got Frederick. Luckily, we did have Looney there. So, but now you got Tyler Biadasz in there. I know they want him to be the guy. I know they went in there into the draft. They jumped back in there to grab the Wisconsin player, the Remington Award winner, the best center in all of college football. So he's a special player. We've talked about him before. And I think that's where his role is going to be. It's just talking about Joe Looney. I think he's your backup there. And can you get another deal out of him? I wouldn't mind. I know he's 31, but I think you can get at least another short-term deal out of him, and you would feel comfortable with him being your backup center. Okay. the next player here, this is an interesting conversation here, Mike. Aldon Smith signed a 1-year deal, 31 years old. He's got some incentives, so he can make some money with sack production and that kind of thing. But at 31 on a 1-year deal, what's your gut feeling on Aldon Smith with the Cowboys and moving forward?
I want him to do well. That's a position where we gotta feel, and it's hard to say. I mean, he's been out of the playing ball for 5 years now. If you asked me during training camp, or if there was a preseason and I was able to see him firsthand, and he is reinstated, so he's able to participate in all team junctions, so that's a real positive. But I don't know. This one's hard to say. I wish him the best. Now, he's 31, missed 5 years. How's his football legs? If his football legs are still fresh, he could probably play till he's 38, 39 years old. So, that one to me is to be determined, Joe.
Yeah, it is a big question mark, and I think it's one that we're all anxious to see. We want to see what he looks like in practice. I want to see it, I think if you see some of that sparkiness out of his athleticism that we're accustomed to seeing him, with the bend, the speed, and he's got a good toolbox of pass rushing moves, so there's not a lot more that he needs to learn from Tom Sula. It's all about football conditioning at this point, but yeah, man, for me, I feel like this might be similar to a Robert Quinn type of situation where, you get Quinn on a 1-year deal. Quinn banks on himself, to have a good season and land a more lucrative deal the following season. And that's what happened for him. I feel like Aldon Smith is kind of hoping for that. He's kind of hoping that I'm going to sign with the Cowboys. They get the most, they're the biggest team out there in the NFL. It's just, we get a lot of the primetime games, put that good film out there for teams, show that you can stay away from the crazy off-field issues. And if you produce on the field, you could get that Quinn type of deal and resurrect your career. So, I think that's what's going to happen. It's like you said, it's to be determined, so we'll see what happens there. But if he does well, he may be one of those players that we can't afford, like Randy Quinn. They weren't, Robert Quinn. They weren't going to bring him back because, the price tag just got too big. It got too big. So we'll see what happens there, Mike. Blake Bell, the tight end. We're talking about, last week we talked about position groups on offense. What might be one of the weaker position groups on the offense. And we touched on tight end, Mike, because we're talking about, we still have a little bit of a question mark on Blake Jarwin getting the keys to the car. How does he produce a full 16 games? And then you have everybody else under him. So Blake Bell is under that category. What's your feeling on what Blake Bell's going to do this year and a second contract possibly? What's your gut feeling here on Blake Bell?
I do not see a second contract unless it's like another 1-year deal or something. He's 30 years old. And, the only thing schematically that I see is he's a blocking tight end, Joe. If Blake Jarwin shines, give him a compliment tight end. Aaron Hernandez, Rob Gronkowski type thing. And go to work, Don't settle just for a blocking tight end. Now, he does have some catch radius, some catching ability, but don't settle. Upgrade in the draft next year if you need to. But I don't see a big future long term. I think I just see a 1-year deal for Blake Bell.
Yeah, I'm totally on board with that, Mike. And it's like you said, it's if you can get better, you can get better. I think the Cowboys need to get better there, And for me, it's another to be determined deal there with Jarwin and the rest of these tight ends. They're Schultz kind of showed some promise, but hasn't been able to take that big leap that we thought he was going to make. Bell, I think his specialty is going to be in run blocking, like you said. Definitely, I think that's his specialty. But other than that they got to churn this roster some more. And And for Mike McCarthy, he does like his tight ends. You know, he likes his tight ends to be red zone targets and to be able to catch the ball. So if you look at his history, the type of tight ends he's brought into his program, you just get this feeling that he's going to test out Jarwin. Obviously they gave him the 3-year deal, but just, you know, a lot of these contracts are never set in stone. You know, anybody can get cut at any time, and they'll take the hit. You know, if they can get somebody else in the draft, that's what they'll do. But for us as fans, you want Blake Jarwin to succeed. You definitely want him to be that guy. You know, you want him to. That we don't have to blow a first or early round pick on a tight end. You know, nobody wants to do that. You know, but you make a great point. If we can get a complimentary player, you know, opposite of him, another tight end that's a little bit more well-rounded and not somebody that's just, you know, a run-blocking tight end, then that would be the way to go. So, yeah, man, 30 years old, run-blocking tight end. I feel like you can get these a dime a dozen. You know, they're all over the place. So we'll see what happens there. Mm-hmm. Joe Thomas, Maurice Kennedy, we kind of touched on that there. Let's see. LP, you know, the age, I think he might be on his final thing here. The next one here, Mike, I think we need to discuss Chidobe Awuzie. He's finishing up his rookie contract, 26 years old, still young. You know, I have him penciled in as the starter vet there, opposite who knows on the other side. You know, is it going to be Trayvon Diggs? Is it going to be Anthony Brown? Is it going to be one of these other guys? But for me, I think Cheeto is one of those players that's penciled in for me. What's your take on Cheeto? Does he have an opportunity to make a second-year deal, or does he move on?
Should you talk about the pencil, the pen, or the magic eraser, or the magic marker? Joe, with Chidobe, I'm pinning him in. Because if you look at his Colorado film, it didn't translate under Chris Richard because he was limited to the abilities he's used to. And when you open him up and you're able, we seen him get a couple of interceptions in preseason and regular season. You're just like, wow, you know, where's that been? Mm-hmm. You know, it wasn't consistent under Chris Richard because Chris Richard, reports are coming out, didn't let him be him. So new defensive coordinators, I think you'll see a different Awuzie. I honestly do. The speed's there. The talent's there. I'm pinning him in as the second corner to Diggs. And I really think this guy will make a case to get that second-year contract, or that second contract, Joe.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's one of my cornerbacks that I like there for getting a second contract. And just like you touched upon, you know, a lot of reports are coming out here that Richard was teaching this goofy technique. You know, the players weren't looking back. It was a very predictable, style that they were playing with the receivers in the passing game defense. You know, he had that title. So, I think they kind of almost wasted his talent there the way that Richard started coaching him, which could be a shame here if you don't keep him, because we're talking about a draft class that's pretty recent, you know, and the way it's looking now, if none of these guys get re-signed, that whole draft class is gone. It's wiped out, you know, and we're talking about 2017, you know, mm-hmm. That's only a few years ago, and for none of them to be around, that would almost be considered a failure, you know. So can they salvage it? Can they salvage that draft class with one or two players? I think Cheeto has the opportunity to do that. I don't think he'll ball out and demand a huge number like a Byron Jones. I think it's a number they might be able to work with, you know. Mm-hmm. And depending on how things work out, franchise tag might even be a possibility if he gets that level. You know, I don't think so. But, yeah, man, I think under this new regime and what he does, his style of play, he's a physical cornerback. You know, we see him go toe-to-toe with beast mode. and a lot of these other physical types of players. So that's good. You want your corners to be that. You don't want them to shy away. You got to play run support. So Cheeto is that, and I think if he has a good season, a solid enough season, he might be one here that Cowboys, tinker around during the bye week. He could be a bye week extension candidate. Is really what I'm looking at here for Cheeto. Get a deal done if he's playing well. See how it's looking by the bye week. Then you don't have to worry about that other side, man. You got Trayvon and Cheeto to lock it down. So that's a good discussion there, Mike. I like that there, Cheeto. The next one that's interesting here, Randy Gregory. He is listed as an upcoming free agent, but my understanding is you got to have accrued three. You have to have 3 NFL seasons accrued. So to be a restricted free agent. So with all the suspensions and all the missed time that Randy Gregory has had, I'm not so sure that he's actually going to be an unrestricted free agent, So I think he'll hit restricted first, then unrestricted. So if he plays this season at least 6 or more games, he'll then become restricted. It's just the way I understand it. So that's one to keep an eye on, Mike. Randy Gregory, 28 years old, missed a lot of time with the antiquated NFL drug policy, substance abuse policy, but now they've made they've tweaked it. So what's your gut feeling here on Randy Gregory this year and moving forward?
You got to look, because they have him listed on the Cowboys roster as an outside linebacker. Same thing with Aldon Smith. So what's going to be, the competition between Aldon Smith and Randy Gregory, right? And that's going to be tough competition. They've both been out of football for so long. And, for Randy Gregory not to have his hand in the dirt is going to be huge when he gets reinstated and gets acclimated and starts learning things like that. Not having his hand in the dirt is going to play a huge factor. Yes, he's been out of football, but body-wise, not having your hand in the dirt is going to help him in the longevity, right? I hope he balls out. Having him and Aldon Smith there in that rotational piece, it could make him where Aldon Smith wears him out and he cleans it up. And, he could have high sack numbers with that strategy. But, that one to be determined with me.
Yeah, I think, to be determined, I think he's right there. Same situation as Aldon Smith, almost to the Q, to the T. So, and he's still in the reinstatement application process. Aldon Smith has already been reinstated. Randy Gregory, for whatever reason, this is always shrouded in mystery. I don't know why, but it's always shrouded in mystery. Supposedly, the rumor is he did apply. But, nobody reports it. Nobody reports it as completely 100% factual that has happened. So we'll see. We'll see if he's even interested in football at this point. A lot of people are kind of assuming he's going to be on the team. I'm hoping he is. He shows that ability, and low tread on the tires. So I like that one there. I'm hoping he can come back and be productive for us. Rotation with Smith, I think it'd be great. Jordan Lewis, Mike. We're talking about one of these other cornerbacks, a secondary player in that 2017 draft class. Jordan Lewis, 26 years old, final year of his deal. What's his future for the Cowboys, Mike?
I think he's right there with Cheeto, Joe. And I think the reason why he didn't get a lot of playing time, because he was defiant to the laws Chris Rashad was preaching. Because when he got on the field, he made turnovers happen, and then you would see him get benched. And he didn't get that starting role until Jason Garrett's back was against the wall, late in the year last year. But I really think Jordan Lewis can really make an impact on this football team. And, he don't have to worry about those phony little Chris Richard tweaks anymore. He can go out there and play and be the dog from Michigan that I know and love.
That's what I like. For me, he's one of my favorite players. We've talked about this too in the past, that he's just one of these players that when he gets the opportunity, he's shown that he can do a really good thing for the defense. You get turnovers. Everybody remembers the Saints game, the turnover turn the tide in that game, a big game for us. He was an integral part of that victory. You know, I think he has a really good knack for the ball. We got a steal with him in the third round. He was a really higher projected player outside of the, the off-field, issues that he had trumped up against him. So Jordan Lewis, I think he's one of these players that if you let him go, he ends up with the Ravens or somebody like that, or he's gonna. Jordan Lewis is that player that if you let him go, he's gonna do really good somewhere else, and you're gonna be like, dang it, we should have kept this guy. That's the feeling I get from Jordan Lewis, and it's gonna be one where you're like, why the heck did you let this guy go? Too many people get caught up on the height. 5'11", that's good enough for me, man. He's got the long arms. I think that cancels out that 1 inch difference. I think too many people kind of concentrate on the 1 inch here. But a 5'11", 6 foot, come on.
He's a dog.
He's a dog. He can play. He can sniff out the plays on run support. Great knack for the ball, and like you said, I think that's what got him benched. He wasn't going to go for these crazy techniques. This is not what he was taught at Michigan. Comes here with Richard, and it's some crazy stuff. So we'll see on Jordan Lewis. I'm hoping for the best. Xavier Woods, Mike, the third secondary player from that 2017 class. He's in the final year of his deal. 26 years old. What's your thoughts on Woods' future?
Be honest. This is the year Xavier Woods has to step it up. You heard me just blame a lot of things on Chris Richard, but Xavier Woods, I fell in love with at Louisiana Tech. And, when they drafted Ryan Switzer, I wanted that pick in the 4th round to be Xavier Woods. We got lucky, Joe, and we got him later on in the draft, I think in the 6th round. So Xavier Woods, it's time for him to shine. We always talk about Dallas Cowboy players stepping up big in their last year of the contract. Xavier Woods needs to have a great year. The talent's there. The ball hawking skills that I've seen from Louisiana Tech, it's still there. And this defensive, Mike Nolan, this defensive staff has to dig down deep and pull that back out. And if he has a great year, I would not be surprised for him to get a second contract, Joe.
Yeah. That's how I feel too about Woods. I feel kind of like how I feel about Cheeto. I think it's gonna be either or. I don't know if it'll be both. I think out of this 2017 draft class, I think ideally you want to come away with at least one of these players to keep. If you can keep 2, I think you're doing good. But the way I feel about Cheeto, that's how I feel about Woods. If he really pops off and takes another leap in his career, he could be one of those players that we're talking about during that middle of the season bye week. We're like, okay, let's make a discussion about this. Do we want to give this guy a deal now, or do we want to wait and he's too expensive? So that's one to keep an eye on. I think that's a great discussion, a player to really watch during the season, Mike.
Absolutely.
The rest of the players here, not much more else to really talk about. Noah Brown, Cedric Wilson, Antoine Woods. Any of these guys kind of pop off to you as far as, I want to keep them or anything like that?
No. I mean, I honestly can't look at this list and said, yes, this is what we need to do here. I think that sums up the 1-year players, and I hope a lot of them steps up and leads us to a Lombardi trophy at the end of the day.
That's what it is. These 1-year players, you really want to hope that they dig deep inside, and they really want to ball out, and if they do, that really helps out the team. Okay, Mike. So we want to close it out now, Mike, with this team. Are we still going to be known more as a physical running game with that offensive line type of offense, or is it possible that we might see a shift with this being more of a pass-oriented offense? What's your gut feeling on what to expect here from the offense in 2020?
My gut feeling, Joe, is Mike McCarthy said the offense is going to start with Zeke. And we talked about the wrinkles last week, about how play action helps Dak and how accurate he is with play action. I think Mike McCarthy would probably fool himself if he abandons run games, and this is a running team. The offensive line is there. You got Pollard, you got Zeke, you have to use that running game. Dak benefits off of it. The offense as a whole, we talked about that wrinkle in CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Amari Cooper. All those guys benefit from one guy. And Ezekiel Elliott. They have to stick to it, Joe.
Yeah. And one team that really comes to mind, and this is a team that I really don't like because they talk so much crap about the Cowboys. The greatest show on turf. We're talking about Kurt Warner, Marshall Faulk. Your consummate Cowboys haters, but we're talking about that team, right? They had it all. They had the great running game with Marshall Faulk. They had the great explosive passing game with, Holt and all these other guys there, Isaac Bruce and Kurt Warner flinging it around left and right. I feel like the Cowboys offense could be that, it really could. There's some fans that want to talk about, we're going to become an aerial attack team. This is going to be heavy passing. Zeke's not even good anymore. We're not going to utilize him. He's too slow, this and that. There's a lot of stupid, crazy narratives that are going on right now in the offseason. I think they need to be checked. And that's what we're here to talk about, Mike. And I agree with you. You got to have Zeke. I think he's still your centerpiece part of that offense. And, Mike McCarthy said it himself, and he knows what it takes to get an offense, a playoff caliber offense, what it takes. And so I trust in McCarthy. We always talk about we trust in McClay and this and that for the personnel and the draft picks. Well, for the team, I can honestly say from what I've seen, from the outside looking in at Green Bay's program under Mike McCarthy, it's impressive. You know that they were always going to show up. You're always going to be in a battle. They were always very well prepared. They're well balanced. They kept you on your toes. And I think that McCarthy's chomping at the bit because he's got a better running back right now than he's ever had at Green Bay.
That's true.
It's not even close. So
not even.
I think it's going to be well balanced. I think it has the opportunity to be a very explosive offense, Mike, to be honest. And I'm ready to see it, man. Let's make it happen, baby.
Let's go. Let's make it happen.
That's it, Mike. That's it. But that's all that we have right now for you guys. We hope you guys enjoyed our take at our, contract year players. Let us know in the comments. Let us know what you guys think. Who has the opportunity to possibly earn a second contract? Or are we going to let all these guys get out of here without a second year deal, without a second contract? Let us know. Mike, where can they find you at, man?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you, Joe, for having me again right here on the Frisco Report. Thank you to all our listeners. You can find me, Dallas Cowboy Football News, on YouTube and on Facebook. DCF News 1 on Twitter, guys. Give me a mention. Give me a follow. Let's have the conversation. And the only way to do it is if you start it first. I know you're out there. Just come follow me and let's talk.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's where it's at. Make sure you guys hit up Mike on all his content out there. Great YouTube channel. Twitter's always on fire. Great co-host. Really appreciate him. You can find me on YouTube. Just look me up, Cowboys Blog on YouTube. Twitter and Instagram, Cowboys Blog, Cowboys Blog Net. Hit me up. Give me a follow. And, we'll go from there. But that's all we have for you guys tonight. Make sure you follow our Twitter account at The Frisco Report on Twitter. Give us a follow. And you can follow our webpage, www.thefriscoreport.com. We have all of the schedule for the 2020 season. You can hit up Mike's YouTube page. My YouTube page is on there. And some merch. Show off some Frisco Report merch. Give us a tag, and we'll show it off on social media, guys. But that's all we have for you tonight. We'll catch you next Tuesday for the Frisco Report. Peace.
Peace.